Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Firehouse Chef. I'm your host, Ryan McKay. On this episode, it's a little bit of a breakaway from where I wanted the episodes to kind of progress. I was going to do this episode a little bit later, but it kind of got bumped up to the top due to an incident at the fire station. So we're going to refer to this as the emergency episode. Well, needless to say, I hope over the course of the last 4 or 5 years, my cooking has kind of inspired my fellow firefighters to jump into the kitchen. Needless to say, a lot of them are very good chefs in their own right, but a lot of them have, well, questionable knife skills to begin with. And a fellow firefighter who shall go unnamed decided to, well, take a knife very similar to this and introduce it to the bone in his finger, I guess just to say hello. But, I mean, I saw the writing on the wall, but there's just one thing you never do one man to the other, especially in the fire services, tell him how to use a tool. Well, hopefully this is kind of like an end around to kind of teach him, but not really teach him in face-to-face. Anyways, this episode's all about making sure that your knife doesn't say hello to the bones in your finger, so stick around. Alright, let's talk about what I think are the 4 important must-have knives in your kitchen. Let's kind of start here from the top, almost the top. This here is a bread knife, and I don't care if it's a bread knife or a cake knife, as long as it has teeth, kind of like a chainsaw. And that's designed to grab onto anything that's slippery or circular in nature. Think of a baguette. Now the 3 smaller ones in between are called paring knives, and some people consider them a luxury. I think I paid $4 per on the wall here. But think of them as intricate works, whether you're coring a tomato or peeling an apple. In my opinion, they're great to have. Now the one right below it is the smaller one, not as wide or as thick as a chef's knife, but it is very, very flexible, extremely sharp. It's very well used for cleaning up meats, whether you're taking off silver skin or extra fat, or working in between joints and bones on poultry. A must-have in my opinion. But kind of scratch all of that. If there's one knife you have to have above all else, that is of course a chef's knife. And of course they range from all sorts of sizes, from 6 to 12 inches long. It really depends on how it fits into your hand, how you're holding it. Well, let's cover that over here. Knife is called the pinch method, where you take your thumb and your pointer finger and you handle the blade more towards the middle or a little bit past the handle. That allows for really good balance, because you don't want this tip and this handle to be going seesawing. You kind of want it towards the middle. That way you can grab your last 3 fingers and kind of hold it so it feels comfortable in an extension of your hand. Because realistically, guys, most of the cutting is derived right here towards the base, and that's right where your power is. You're not holding this tightly, it's nice and loose. All the pinching is where the pressure and power is coming from. Nice and loose, you're holding it, and like if we're using the Eastern technique, which is similar to a piston, where you're working up and down, you're coming down with all the power, transferring it there, moving up and down, or forming the letter O. Up and down, up and down. It's a great way of holding it. Now if your hand's too big, or it feels not very comfortable, you can always kind of choke up on your bat and use the 2-finger method, which is very, very similar, just a little bit more comfortable depending on your hand size and of course, the shape of the blade. Another great way of holding it is to use your middle finger there, the same pinch method with your thumb, but you extend your pointer finger, and this is really used for intricate tip work if you don't have a paring knife. But my preferred method, until you guys can start experimenting yourself, start with the pinch method right here in the middle. All right? We've talked about what to do with the hand that's holding the blade using the pinch method. Now let's talk about what you're supposed to do with the other hand. And this was the downfall of the firefighters who shall not be named. What I'd like for you to do with the other offhand is to form what we like to call where you have your fingertips wrapped in, your knuckles are flat out, almost like a 90-degree angle from whatever cutting surface that you're using. Your thumb is being used to kind of pin down whatever you're cutting. Your knuckles rest on top of it. That way your blade can come across and use your middle knuckle, which is usually the longest of your hand, as a guide. So let's kind of demonstrate here on a piece of celery. I've got my pinch method. I'm using my guide. That way, using the Eastern technique, I can come up and down, slowly slide my finger back. I can always kind of come up and reach the resistance of my guide here. That way I can, if I want to, I can have nice equal proportions. I can always slide my finger back as long as I'm able to hold whatever I'm cutting. That way I can visually see what I'm cutting. It's a little bit easier. But again, that's just called the claw. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, that's our quick emergency episode on knife skills. A couple of highlights just to remind you again, make sure that you use that pinch method until you get more comfortable with whatever method that you want to hold out with. Make sure it feels nice and comfortable in your hand. The power is being driven right there where you're pinching it, and it's almost like an extension of your arm.